however, a Francophile. I love everything to do with France and have traveled there many, many times. So I'm really very excited to be presenting cycling in France for UTracks tonight. So, who are UTracks? In case you aren't familiar with our company, we are part of the World Expeditions Travel Group, and we started offering these cycle trips in France 20 years ago. So we started UTracks in 2007, and 2006 we introduced them to our World Expeditions program. We pulled them out in 2007 for a dedicated brand of UTracks, and I was super lucky to be part of the founding of UTracks, and as a part of that, I did my first cycle trip in France in the Loire and also in Provence. So I'm going to be showing you a few of those images. I've been back to both of those areas a few times since, and I've discovered so many other parts of France by bike. And I have to say, it's probably one of my favorite countries to cycle in because it's such a cycle-friendly country. It has a lot of great cycleways, but also the cars are very respectful of cyclists. So I've never felt so comfortable as when I'm cycling through France, and wow, the scenery is quite amazing. So I've, as I mentioned, been with UTracks for many, many years, since its founding, and have delved into so many different regions of Europe, but also in particular France as well. And I'm a very passionate cyclist. I think I also am a passionate walker. So I'm really, really keen on anything that takes you under your own steam to explore a country or region, or through different countries as well. So I'm very passionate about active travel, and I'm really keen to show you a little bit about what we do in France. So as part of that, I'm going to talk about navigation, the grading of our trips, how the trips actually work, what you're going to encounter, when is the best time, what's included, a little bit about gear and training, and a few of my favorites to end the presentation. So we do have a few guided trips, but they're only based on boats in France. So we have, for example, our Provence bike and boat, and we also have another boat trip up in the Loire. And these are a great opportunity to meet with like-minded people and share meals in the evening. You're based on board a boat, so you don't have to unpack and pack each day. Although I'll talk a bit about that later, because I find that quite a fun part of the trip as well. And you get to see some really spectacular landscapes in Provence and the Loire. But most of our trips in France are self-guided, and even on the boat trips, you can choose to not cycle with the group, but instead go solo or with your partner and go on a self-guided experience as well. And I have to say, from the first time I did the self-guided cycling in Provence, I was hooked. It is such a great way to explore under your own steam, and it's so empowering. You can make your way between towns knowing that your luggage is transferred, and you stay in beautiful towns and accommodation, very central. It's just a magical way to explore, and I know why many of our travelers come back time and time again to experience this same feeling of making your way through a foreign country by yourself. So rest assured, we don't leave you without the proper tools to be able to navigate. So whilst there are signages on many of the routes, and there are great maps and directions, the best way now to navigate is by an app. And we have a dedicated app that takes you on the route, and it shows you where you are at any time on the route as well, and also lets you know if you've left the route as well. So in order to facilitate that, you do need to bring your mobile phone, and you download the app onto your phone. And then once it's downloaded, which you will do at home, it is then available offline. So you're not chewing up data while you're away. It's all available offline. And in order to house your phone comfortably on the bike, you can choose from a few different mobile phone holders specifically for bikes. You can get them at places like Amazon. My personal favorite is a quad lock, but they're a little bit more expensive, and only invest in that if you're planning to do a lot of cycling yourself. So a quad lock keeps your phone nice and secure. And of course, you do need to carry some extra battery power just in case your phone runs out of battery, which can happen because it's the app can take up some of your battery space. So best to take a battery pack and also have your phone on airplane mode. So while you're on the cycle trip, there's not much you need to bring that's specialist gear. Usually a helmet is provided, although we let you know if it isn't. We do say you do need to wear a helmet at all times while you're cycling for safety reasons, although it's not a legal requirement in France, except for children under 14. Bright colours are essential. Some nice, comfy shoes, and if you decide that you want to bring your SPD pedals, you can do that, but you need the tools to put them onto the bike and take them off when you return the bike at the end of the trip. Some very fancy bike pants are always good to have because they provide that padding for your bottom, but you can also choose to get a gel padded seat cover that does the trick as well. If you want to look a bit more stylish on your cycle trip, it's up to you. Layers is always the best option when you're cycling, and always be dependent on the season as well. So we'll generally provide you with a helmet, some panniers to hold your daily requirements, and a repair kit, which you can use to repair any minor problems with the bike, such as a puncture. If there's anything major, of course, we have a local assistance to come and help you with the bike and, if necessary, replace the bike. So we definitely have that support available. The bikes that we use are generally hybrid bikes, which are very fit for purpose. They tend to have between 21 and 24 speeds, and they can be step-through female or unisex style, or men's with the higher crossbar. You can also choose to get an e-bike, which a lot of our clients do, because it's a very comfortable way to travel, particularly if you're going in a hilly destination. So that's definitely an option to have an e-bike. And there's other bikes that may be available depending on the terrain that you're covering, such as a mountain bike or a gravel bike. And kids' bikes are available as well, which, if you're taking the youngsters, are always an essential thing to have. So what's included in the trip? Well, we do have luggage transfers included daily. So every time you're moving from one hotel to the next, your luggage is transferred. You simply take it down to the hotel lobby, and then our luggage transfer driver will come and pick it up, and you'll have it waiting for you when you get to your next accommodation. We use really good accommodation. It's all hand-picked and very centrally located, and with the correct facilities for cyclists. You get a bike with pannier and an app so that you can navigate the route. A helmet is usually provided, and we always have a 24/7 emergency support line, so that if you have a problem during the trip, which hopefully you don't, then you can certainly call on that number to get assistance. So luggage transfers make the journey very, very easy, because you're not carrying all your luggage, so that's kind of nice, and it is waiting for you at the next hotel. The accommodation, really, everyone is super surprised by how good quality the accommodation is on our programs. Even some of the 2 or 3 star hotels have such great facilities and a really warm welcome. And being France, the hotel restaurants are absolutely superb. So a good breakfast to start off with, it can vary between some fresh rolls or croissants and yogurt and coffee and tea and maybe some fruit, to a more substantial breakfast depending on where you're staying. And we also have a local contact that you can draw upon to help. So accommodation, generally we use 3 star, but we often use 4 star as well. And we have the ability to upgrade hotels. So sometimes, for example, in the Loire, we have like chateau hotels that you can upgrade to. And all of them are bike friendly. So they'll have places for you to charge your e-bike and to store the bikes. And then you can, once you've checked into the hotel, you can go and explore the town, have a drink in the local square, and just really experience the French life, which is just lovely. So our trips are graded from introductory all the way through to challenging, and you can see this on the elevation charts, how much you'll be climbing on a particular route or the distance that you'll also be cycling, and that is available on each of our trip pages on our website. Also on our website, you'll see the itinerary, which will show you the ascents and descents, and also the kilometres and miles that you'll be going each day. And generally speaking, a person that's not on an e-bike would go about 12 kilometres an hour on 12 to 15 kilometres on the flat. And if it's a bit hillier, it can go down to about 8 or 10 kilometres an hour. So that gives you an idea of how far you can go in a day. So there's always plenty of time in the itinerary so that you're not feeling like you're literally cycling all day and huffed and puffed to get to the next accommodation. It is a relaxing way to cycle. It's all about taking in the sights. It's all about stopping and experiencing a mid-morning coffee, lunch somewhere nice, whether that's picnic style or in a restaurant, and then dinner in the town that you're staying at. And some of our trips do include dinner at night as well. So to train for a cycle trip, I think it's always good to do a bit of cardio before you go. 3 to 5 times a week is a good indication of that. Do some leg strengthening if you're going to be doing some hill climbing. That would include things like steps. And for the balance, I think you need to have good balance to ride a bike, and you need to be a competent cyclist even if you're using an e-bike, because e-bikes are actually heavier, so they do require you to be quite a competent cyclist. So core exercises are really important, planking, but also getting on a bike and practicing before you go means that you'll have a really fun and comfortable trip once you're there. While you're on the bike, wear a helmet, wear bright colours, and make sure you're riding on the right side of the road, which is the side of the road that they cycle in France. Particular attention is required when you get to a roundabout, for example. And I would recommend not using your camera while cycling or your phone, except to navigate the route where it's sitting on your handlebar. So during the cycle, you're going to come across different surfaces. Some of the cycling might take you on dirt roads. Maybe, for example, in the Loire, there's some really lovely forest tracks that we go on. Other times you'll be coming into town and there'll be cobblestones, and then there'll be dedicated cycle routes that is, for example, on the Rhône cycle path, and then minor roads as well. And you shouldn't be concerned about the minor roads because, as I mentioned before, that the traffic is very, very considerate of cyclists, particularly if you're wearing bright colours and stand out on the road. So a typical day, you start with breakfast at the hotel, your luggage is picked up, and then you set out on your way. And on the route, you can stop, take a photo of different sites. There might be some sites to see, some small towns that you've pass through, a museum. There might be some tasting cellars that you can go to if you're going through one of the wine regions, or you might just want to have a picnic lunch or just a coffee as you cycle when you stop from the cycling. And then you get to your accommodation and check in. Your luggage is there from about 4 p.m., depending on the route that you're taking. And then you can have a shower and set out into the town, maybe have a look around. There might be some sights. A lot of the time they're very, very small towns, and that's really nice because you're getting to really experience regional France, and then finding a nice place to eat your meal, which is always something you look forward to in France. It's so much so I always dream about the meals that I had while cycling in France because they're a real treat. So we offer 49 cycle trips. So that covers quite a distance. France is a big country. It has so much diversity in the landscapes from, the Alpine regions up in the west the eastern Alps. You also have the coastal regions around Brittany and Normandy, the flat areas up near the Belgian border where you'll find our Western Front cycle. You'll have some beautiful river landscapes through the Loire and from the Rhone from Geneva all the way down to the Mediterranean Sea. Then the canal trips through the Gironde and the Canal de Midi, which also take you to the Mediterranean, the Atlantic coastal routes, and lots of other routes in between, including, for example, the Le Puy Camino, which is a massive cycle from Le Puy in the center of France all the way to the Spanish border. So a lot to choose from. And I haven't even mentioned the beautiful wine regions that you can go to, like in the Dordogne or Champagne, Bordeaux, Burgundy. So lots of beautiful regions to explore in France, and they're so different. You'll be coming back next year for a new trip. So what season to go? Well, seasonality is really important in France. Spring is a great time because it's cooler and it has lots of beautiful flowers out, and the spring fruits are available as well, which is so nice to see in the markets. But one thing to bear in mind is that if you're going through a vineyard area, there'll be no grapes at all on the vines, as you can see in this image. Beautiful blossoms, but not grapes on the vines. In summer, as we've seen through many reports in the press, it can get very hot in France, particularly in the southern areas. So that's something to consider. I always find, though, even on the hottest days, cycling, you don't feel the heat like you do when you're walking. But setting out early is probably one of the strategies if you are going in summer. And then you've got beautiful fruits, again, the summer fruits happening, like the apricots in Provence. And a lot of the towns and villages along the route will have festivals at this time of year. So it's a great time to experience a lot of the culture of France in the smaller towns. Autumn or fall is a great time as well. It's almost peak season there now in September and October, but for good reason. The colours are there in the trees. You've also got mushrooms and truffle hunting sort of time, so there's going to be a lot of great diversity on the menu. And you'll see when you're cycling through Bordeaux, for example, you'll see a lot of fruit on the trees, or you might even on the vines, or you might even see them out in the fields during harvest time. So that is also a really nice time of year to be in France. And in winter, we don't tend to have cycle trips available because of the shorter days that you experience at that time of year. So there's a few different styles of trips that we offer, and one of them is long distance. And the Atlantic coast is a perfect example of that because we have a route that takes you from Nantes all the way through to Biarritz. So it's right along that Atlantic coastline, which is quite amazing. From Paris to Amsterdam or vice versa, and that's a nice long distance route that takes you between France and the Netherlands through Belgium as well. And the Rhone cycle, that takes you from the source of the Rhone, which is right up in the Swiss Alps in Andermatt, all the way through to Sète, which is on the Mediterranean coastline. So those are a couple of examples of the long distance or linking trips that we offer. And it's a really great way if you want to do sections of that or do the whole route, then this is certainly an option for you. So I've already mentioned the Provence bike and boat, which I'll mention again in a second, but we also have up in the Loire between Nevers and Bria a beautiful barge trip on one of our standard barges, and that goes through some spectacular countryside on the Loire, and it visits chateaux and there's wine tasting, and it's a really unique experience and something that's a very unique and wonderful way to explore the Loire. And also in Provence, we stay on a standard plus boat, which is the Estella or the Caprice. And I guess the main difference between a standard barge and a standard plus is that you've got both of the beds are lower beds on a standard plus, whereas on a standard you've got a little bit of a bunk, not complete bunk, but it's a sort of like a sideways bunk. And otherwise, it's a beautiful way to explore the barge, the canals and riverways of the French of France countryside. So yeah, this one goes from Avignon down to Sète, and it follows a bit of the Provence backroads, which I'll show you a little bit about, but you spend a bit of time out visiting the Pont de Garde, and you also go to Arles, which is where Van Gogh spent a lot of time, and the Camargue, which is a nature park, which has got flamingos and wild brumbies, wild horses, I should say. So my first introduction, as I mentioned, was to cycle through France in the Loire and Provence, and that was with my very young children. So they were 2 and 4 when we did that, and then we've come back a number of times to cycle in Burgundy, in Normandy, and also in Bordeaux. And so that's been great for them. And also, I think it's a nice way to experience a country with kids, because they're always very welcome. And of course, we have the specific bikes available for them and good rates for families that are sharing a quad room, for example. Now, I can't talk about cycling in France without talking about the amazing food and wine. I stayed in that first trip in Provence in a 2-star, it's actually now a 3-star hotel, but it was quite an eclectic hotel. The restaurant that we had dinner at each night was in the hotel, and a couple of years after it became a Michelin star, and the chef is a female. Amazing food, incredible. I've also stayed in many other great 2, 3, 4-star hotels where the restaurant in the hotel has maybe not Michelin star, but very close to it. The quality of the food is incredible, and the price tag, it's pretty reasonable. So I think you can eat very well in countryside France. I'm not saying in the major cities, the prices are a little bit higher, but in some of those country towns where we cycle through, you have the most splendid gourmet experiences, and it's just wonderful using really great local ingredients. What they're doing there is incredible. They've always had that legacy of food and wine, but it's just wonderful to see it firsthand. There's a lot of coastal trails that we offer, like the Atlantic coast in Brittany, Normandy, and I'll first mention Corsica, which I have to say is one of my favorite places in France. The cycling there is amazing, but also if you're a walker, I don't think you can get much better hiking there than in Corsica. It's a wonderful place to visit as well. And there's also river trails. We go on the Seine, the Marne, the Garonne, and in the Dordogne. All over France, there's some great river cycling that we do, and it's just wonderful. I have to say, because often it's dedicated cycleways next to those rivers as well, but you also go off the river and visit towns and villages. It's just wonderful. So a few of my favorites. Well, Provence Backroads, it's a great introductory cycle. There is one big hill that's up to Le Bas de Provence, but it is a very doable cycle, and you stay in some marvelous places like Arles and Le Bas de Provence and Saint-Rémy, and also in Barbentan or Gravesson. Just wonderful towns in the Bouches-du-Rhône region of France, which just has a very special vibe about it, and just a pleasure to cycle through. Plenty of time to relax because the cycle distances are not great. Another of my favorites is the Bordeaux to Toulouse along the Garonne, and leaving Bordeaux by bike is a magical experience. And this is on a largely dedicated cycle route, and then arriving in a major city like Toulouse, it just makes it a very easy way to explore all those places in between as well. And I also would like to shout out to Toulouse to the Mediterranean, which is along the Canal de Midi, and it goes via Carcassonne, which is just an incredible castle town, which is just great to explore. So, and also it's got some terrific food there as well, including the cassoulet, which comes from that region. The Loire Valley cycle, again, another great favorite of mine, starting in Blois, but you're also going to some beautiful chateaux to visit, like Cheverny and Chambois. And one of my favorite ones is the castle of the castle that the Medici family owned. So that's a really nice one. And also to see in Amboise, to see the beautiful gardens there and the marketplaces. It's just a terrific cycle trip. And, you know, Chenonceau is just got the most magical gardens as well. So if you're into gardens, then definitely go to the Loire, because it's got some spectacular gardens to visit. Normandy, I just like to say cheese, because in Normandy the cheese is fantastic. The galettes, and also going to Bayeux to see the amazing tapestry. Visiting the World War II sites, the beaches, the landing beaches is incredible. It is a really diverse cycle trip that gives you exposure into the Calvados region as well, and some beautiful towns as you cycle through. So Normandy definitely is one to do, and it's a good one to do maybe in summer where it's still a bit cooler, although you will get some warmer days, but you've often got a beach or a hotel with a pool as well. So Normandy cycle. And I can't not mention the Verona cycle path, because this was newly finished last year. So the final route, the final stage all the way to the Mediterranean was added, and we included that in our program last year. But we also included the section from the source of the Rhône River. You go through the most magnificent towns on this trip, including some of my favorites that I mentioned in Provence, like Avignon and Orange and Arles. Just incredible towns. But also on this trip, you can go through Lyon and Geneva. You see the Alps. It is an incredibly diverse trip, and a real one to consider. So I've given you a little bit of a snapshot of our program. I haven't covered every single trip. I hope I've given you an idea of what it's like to go cycling in France. In terms of when is a good time to book, well, anytime you're ready to book, you should do it, because then you get your first chance of accommodation. We do have specials from time to time, but it is, this season's already quite busy, and particularly May, where I think we're finding it hard for availability, and our boat trips are pretty much full for our Provence and Loire for this season. But we have just introduced our 2027 dates for the Provence bike and boats. So if you're interested in that trip, then certainly get online because the dates are now available for booking. So on that, I will say merci for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, merci, Kay. Thank you. It was very good, and you did really well in your pronunciations. Put me to shame. So yes, so thank you for your presentation. If you have any questions, please pop them in the little box at the bottom of your screen. I've got to say though, Kate, that was quite comprehensive. You covered a lot of things. Really good to see that your children have had that experience of cycling France. We do get quite a few travelers actually going that intergenerational. So it might be a mother and like an adult daughter going on these trips, and it's a really good bonding experience as well. So yeah, definitely worth considering that. So the first question we've got is from Dana, asking about do we have any guided trips that aren't boat related in other countries beyond
Yeah.
France?
Yes, we have a couple of great ones actually from, for example, from Prague to Vienna or Prague to Dresden. So we also have another one in Croatia between Split and Dubrovnik. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Baltics. Did you mention that? Yeah.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Treasures of the
Baltics.
Baltics. Yeah.
Yes,
Which is a great way
yes,
to see those
yeah.
countries.
Lots of the Baltics. We've got some great guided trips there.
Yeah. I've got a question from Colin. He's asking just for a bit more information on the grading levels.
Yeah, so we do have grades for every trip. So you can see on the trip page whether it's introductory, moderate, or challenging. Now, we base that on the kilometres, but also you've got to take into account the terrain. So if it's fairly flat, you're not going to get too hard a grading unless the kilometres are quite long. So usually the cycle distances are between 40 and 60 kilometres for our moderate, but for our introductory, we'll be going from 20 to 35, maybe 40. So, and anything that's challenging will be above the 60 mark as well.
And the e-bike really helps to even that out.
E-bike really, really helps. You still need good fitness because you need to be able to pedal, and they are heavier, so you need to take that into account if you're having to, lift them at any point. So still be a competent cyclist, but certainly it takes the effort out of those hills, and is just marvelous for that. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I would even recommend hiring an e-bike if you've never used one before, and just to go out on a day trip near where you live, and just to build up your confidence, because it can be quite, even though it is quite easy to get the rope of it, the hang of it, just building your confidence with using an e-bike and just finding out what it's all about. You'll be surprised. I think that's what the feedback that I've gotten from other people as well. Oh, it's actually much easier than I expected.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a question here from Michelle, who must have a gluten intolerance because she's asking about gluten-free meals. How do the French go?
The French are getting a lot better at gluten-free meals. So, yeah, I mean, they are probably more sympathetic to gluten-free than vegetarian. But they're pretty good. There's usually always an option for breakfast that there are gluten-free options there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just for any dietary
And in the
needs, I
restaurants.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They're well accustomed to lots of travelers.
Yeah.
Interesting one from Martin, who's saying that he's a biker and his wife is a walker. Is it possible to do a France walking tour and him do a cycling tour where they stay in the same hotel room each night by chance?
That's a really interesting one. We don't have one that's specifically set out for that, but I guess what I would say to Martin is let us know which trip you're interested in, and we'll see whether that can be adapted to be both walking and cycling, for sure. For example, we do have a trip in the Scottish Highlands, which is nowhere near France,
Mhm.
that you can do biking or walking, and you're staying on board a barge. So that's an option as well. But specifically, we don't have one that actually does that. But I certainly would look into one that you brought to our attention that you'd like to do them, see if we could manage that.
Or you can do a walking trip and then do a cycling trip afterwards, and then both parties are happy.
Yeah, I mean, one that could be quite possible would be our walking in Dordogne, where it is a walking trip, but if you wanted to cycle, you could also potentially cycle that route.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. So tricky one, Martin. I think probably best to get in touch and talk to us directly about that.
Yes, for sure.
See what we can do. Um, got a question here from Lisa, who's asking if it's possible to do these trips solo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Most of
Okay.
our trips are, particularly our cycling trips, are easy to get done solo. You will have to pay for a solo traveller supplement though, because that means you're staying in a room by yourself, and luggage transfers are organised just for you. So it is a little bit more expensive to do, but it is absolutely possible.
Yeah, we do get that quite a lot. Few people are traveling solo with us.
Mm.
Um, got one from Anthony here who's asking, are there plenty of toilets available en route? I guess. I guess you're going through lots of villages and things on the way, aren't you? So
You
there's
are.
always,
I mean, France is quite dotted with villages. So you're usually stopping into a village and stopping in for a coffee. And if you're buying a coffee, you can always use the toilet. But also, uh, there are public toilets in most of the towns that you'll pass through. You will have to pay a little bit for those. Um, but yeah,
yeah. Cool. And just wrapping up the webinar, if you've got any last minute questions, just feel free to type them in the box. Um, but we've got one here from Sophie who's asking if they need to get a taxi halfway during a stage, is that possible or how would that work
it
with a
is.
bike?
Yeah, it is possible. It just depends on what sort of taxi is available. I would say that if you were struggling during a day, you'd have to call our local contact number, and then they would have to come and pick you up. And there may be a charge for that depending on the circumstances. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's just about it. I might finish up with my advice for just active travel in general. And that's
Yeah.
probably my little go-to thing is to bring a little Tupperware container with me in my panniers or my backpack because if you're
Yeah. True.
during the day and you're buying a baguette for lunch or like a salami and you don't eat half of it, it's always good to pop that in your bag and that way it doesn't get crushed. It keeps it nice and fresh for the next day. So yeah, it's my little tip. You got any more tips from your end, Kate? Or you've probably shared lots.
I always have a knife, and usually I buy one when I'm there. They've got some beautiful knives in France, and then you can cut the cheese easily.
Very good, because I'll
And
always
the
forget
baguette.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I always
Yeah.
use my hands, but
Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, well, thank you for your presentation. Again, been very, very comprehensive and detailed. Uh, we hope to see everyone in France cycling and enjoying their best active travel lives. So please do get in touch with the rest of our team if you have any other further questions.